Commissioner Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Norwood,
Here.
Commissioner Ezell,
Here.
Commissioner Waddell,
Here.
Commissioner Stalling,
Here.
Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Mayor Pinkinen.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2, at the Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the special session agenda of August 18th, 2020.
I've got an item. On the consent schedule that they gave us,
Right?
it talked about a tuition reimbursement. Is that something that we normally do? Gerald?
Gerald, you know?
Yeah, is that an item on the claims list that we're talking about, or?
Yes.
Yes, I believe that's, well, there's two things that might be related to. There's advanced scholarship. Can you hear me? Oh, hello?
There you go.
All right. Hey, there's two things. One is there is employee scholarships that we offer to our employees, and we also have advanced Air Force Base scholarships.
Oh.
Where was it at in the claims list? Was it listed under a fund or?
I don't know. I was just reading all down
Okay.
through there, and it was $1,100, which I just want you to know I'm very much in favor of that. I didn't know that that was something that we did. And if we do that on a regular basis, is that something we need to be more public about so that it might help our recruiting of employees?
Sure, it's something that we can be, absolutely could be more, we could market more, I guess, or talk about more. We offer up to $1,000 a semester for city employees that take courses. And also we do something similar for Vance Air Force Base. For Vance Air Force Base, because the government takes care of the pilots pretty well, generally the help for them for scholarships usually comes for spouses. And we have a program that we do talk about from time to time at VDA. Mayor, I don't know if we've talked about it for a while there, but we can put it on the agenda for the next VDA meeting, and we can talk about that program here in this council meeting at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. In fact, we've got some new leadership at the base, so they'd be interested, I think, in knowing what the specifics are on that program. So, yep.
Okay,
Does that answer the question for now?
it does. So
Okay.
any employee can apply for that, or
We do have some criteria. It may be, I'd have to take a look at it. It may be non-probationary employees. But it is you can request it before or after, so it can be a reimbursement, or it can be, you can request it before to help you. You just have to maintain certain grades. I think C or above is what we require.
All right.
So we can do a presentation on that at a future study
I'd like to
session.
see that.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other items that anybody wants to discuss, we'll go to item number 3, study items. 3.1, discuss any updates regarding economic development. Lisa, is that you?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I understand the sound in here is not real good, so wave your hand or something. Jerry, I see you. Jerry, you let me know.
You got to speak into the mic.
Okay, you let me know if you can't hear me down there.
I can hear you just fine right now, but I couldn't before. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, Gerald, city staff for having me. Lisa Powell, Executive Director of the Enid Regional Development Alliance. We are the Economic Development Office for the Enid area. And I'm pleased to be here tonight. This is hopefully one of a series of presentations we do over the course of the next year for City Council during study session. If our schedules allow, I'll be back monthly to discuss a different area of focus for economic development. Tonight, we're going to talk about workforce development and how that plays into the overall objectives for economic development, and then what we're doing in Enid along those lines. So workforce development is an effort to improve the quality and skills of the workforce for the community. It also works to help businesses meet their hiring needs and provides channels for businesses and job seekers to connect. So that's a pretty high-level overview of the goals for workforce development. In today's current environment, really, and I don't mean related to COVID, I just mean in general, every person and every place in the world is in competition with one another. For communities today to compete for jobs, we need to be able to provide deep pools of workers that are not only in the workforce system today, meaning they're available right now to go to work, but that we can show that we have an education pipeline that will provide those workers for decades to come. Education and training have become vital to providing a competitive workforce system that drives job creation. And that last few words is really the key in workforce development and why economic development focuses in this area, is because our workforce system drives job creation. I'm sure you've heard me say that in today's, every company looking to locate anywhere, the number one driver, meaning the number one thing they are looking for to make a decision, is whether or not that community or location can provide the workforce with the skills that they need and the quantities that they need to run their business and run that for a long time. And so it's really the tip of the spear in recruiting industry right now. And as you'll see, Enid is doing a very good job in this area. So economic development organizations' role in workforce. So here are just some bullet points to kind of specify that a little further. A lot of what we do, because obviously economic development offices, we don't do any training, so we're not the ones training the workforce. And we don't create the jobs, so we're not the ones hiring the workforce. But what we get involved in is being that agent in the community that is looking at the economy from a 30,000-foot view and identifying trends and things that need to be facilitated. So oftentimes we're a convener or a facilitator. And in workforce development, that's what we do more than anything. And so we coordinate efforts between interested parties to align training with employer demand. So those entities that are involved include our schools, our employers, workforce agencies, and of course, our job seekers. We market the workforce development programs that are available in the community to our businesses and job seekers. One of the major roles that we assist with is connecting education and industry. And now, so I'm pleased to say that today, standing here, that is not such a foreign concept. Really, the state of Oklahoma has made huge strides over the past few years in recognizing that a student is a product that they are developing in order to provide that student a job and to go to work in the economy. And so they realize that the employers are ultimately a customer of our schools and the products that they create. And so those conversations have really started over the past few years. And but there's always more work to do there. We help to identify and find ways that we can tap into some unused labor force, such as youth and hard to serve populations. We market the community to attract and retain skilled workers here. And we're available to help address barriers to retention. Those could be things like transportation or lack of childcare. There could be a whole host of litany of things that we could get involved in, but if you'll think about it in the sense that your schools have their heads down every day working to run their classrooms and provide education for those students. Your employers are there every day trying to produce that widget as efficiently and as quickly as they can. And they are not, either one of them, necessarily always focused on what the other needs. And so we are oftentimes providing that connecting piece to try and bring them together. Current efforts right now, specifically in Enid. So the largest thing we've done recently that you've heard about is the targeted industry study and labor study that was just finished in July. We had a presentation with Chris Schwinden for Site Selection Group that was available to the board the city commissioners as well as the public. We presented that at our annual meeting in July. And that was the first labor study Enid had done since 2009. And really what that does is help quantify our workforce for us. How many workers do we have? What are their skill sets? How many are unemployed, underemployed? What are the commuting patterns look like for our community? What type of training programs do we have available in our community, pre-K through PhD? And so all of that information is stuff that we are regularly asked to provide, like I said, to employers who are looking at Enid, because those are the numbers that they figure into their formula when trying to figure out if Enid's going to be a good fit for their business. Our office also coordinates what we call the Enid Entrepreneur Leadership Series, and that's a coordination between Northern Oklahoma College, Northwestern Oklahoma State University, Enid Public Schools, and Autry Technology Center on all the entrepreneurship programs that are run through those schools. We help to coordinate those efforts in the sense that, again, we bring the schools together to share their plans on their various programs, to ensure that we are cross-promoting those programs, that we aren't overlapping on dates, times, or content for those programs. And then those programs are privately funded, and so we support fundraising efforts to pay for those. One of the current strategic planning committees that we have going is an Education and Workforce Committee. And again, that includes those same community partners with our schools as well as industry partners. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but they are focused on short-term actionable goals that can be taken over the next 12 to 18 months to really move the needle forward in ensuring that we're providing the best skilled workforce we can for our employers here in Enid. The summer internship program is something that ERDA manages, and we do a couple of things for that. We help industry and businesses market their internships because, again, they're many times, especially because we have so many small businesses in Enid, they don't necessarily have an HR department or somebody focused on that full time. They don't have time to go to those career fairs and set up those booths and post those jobs at all of the online career services websites. And so we offer that service for them to help market those positions. And then when they hire an intern for the summer, we have a partnership with Northern Oklahoma College where we can help provide housing for those students for the summer. So that's about an 8-week housing arrangement for them, because that's usually the other barrier for these short-term college summer interns is that finding short-term housing is a challenge. So thanks to our partnership with NOC, we're able to do that. And then we provide programming for those students while they're here over the summer. We get them involved in the community, get them socializing, coming to events here at the Stride Center, taking them to Leonardo's, any opportunity we can to bring them together so that they've got a network of friends while they're here. And we like to joke around that we hope that they fall in love and meet their special somebody here in Enid, and that helps keep them here long term. But that program has been very successful. I would say that nearly 20% of the interns that we've had here over the past 10 years turn around and come back to Enid for a full-time position. We've seen a couple of those out at the airport. Trent Mishak in our office was one of those interns. And so it's brought a lot of strong, highly talented new workers into Enid, and we're proud of that. So Ehs Works is the high school internship program that is in its third year, I believe. Anybody here for that? No, I think it's in their third year this year. And so we are just beginning a partnership with them to identify how we can help support them in their coordination with businesses, because they depend on those relationships to find internship positions for the high school students, and other things we can do to come into that classroom and help educate those students on the opportunities available in Enid. We work with existing employers and new employers as they come into town and make sure that they are aware of the training programs available either through higher ed or career tech. In some cases, there are state incentive dollars available for businesses when they have new employees or when they are new to town. We have a boomerang program that has not launched yet, but I know any of us who talk about the ideal way to recruit new people to Enid is usually to go back and look at who's from here or who has family here, who was raised here. So that boomerang program is set to coordinate with the alumni groups of each of the schools in the area and do some social media outreach just to talk to those alumni about all the tremendous things that have happened in Enid over the past decade that they are probably not familiar with. And hopes that they, when they're looking to make a change someday, they identify Enid as a great place to come back and live and work. We've done apprenticeship training for employers. We manage the Enid Young Professionals Organization and Enid Women in Business. And then we're continually marketing Enid as a great place to live, work, and raise a family. We do that with videos, testimonials, promoting, again, all of the great things that are happening in Enid around public art, the opportunity to get involved and make a difference here, and all of the new quality of life offerings that are happening. So when you see those things on our Facebook page or on our LinkedIn or the videos we put out, those really aren't accidental. We're really trying to convey the message and create a picture of all the great reasons there are to live in Enid. So. All right, so Education and Workforce Strategic Planning Committee. I have Brady McCullough here. He's a superintendent of Autry Technology Center and has been a part of this planning committee. He's also serves on the ERDA Board of Directors. So I'm going to turn it to him in just a minute to make a few comments about how he sees economic development and workforce development working together. But these are three of the initiatives that have come out of this committee so far. They have identified the need to develop career pathways around the career opportunities available in Enid. And so that starts by pulling data on what are all of the job opportunities that are in Enid, and then what type of training career path is there, what type of training is required to get into those various careers, and what do those career paths look like? There's been discussion about the creation or need to create a workforce development office to assist and connect individuals to employers. And then additionally, to do increased marketing of the education opportunities available in Enid. I think marketing in Enid is always something that we're all struggling with. We have a large population here, but it is hard to get a consistent message out to the entire population about things that are available. You know, we've got social media, we've got billboards and radio and newspaper and a couple of magazines, but any case, so there's always more that we could be doing there just to make sure everybody's aware of the opportunities that exist right here in Enid. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Brady and let him make a few comments. And then I'll come back up and wrap it up a little bit.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for the opportunity to come this evening. As she said, I am superintendent at Autry Technology Center, and we are in the workforce business. That's what we do. We work with all different kinds of clients, students, and hopefully we've touched many of the lives that are in this room at this point in time. Autry has an enrollment between 25 and 30,000 people. That's duplicated enrollment over the course of a year. Of those, about 2 or 3% are high school students. And most people think of us as training high school students only. But the vast majority of the training that we are doing is for incumbent workers that are already here in our community. They've found jobs and now they need to upskill in order to move to the next level of employment, in order to maintain certifications, in order to move on to a different job that they might have their sights set on. So a majority of our efforts are concentrated in that particular area. Lisa mentioned that we have had the opportunity to partner with the ERDA in the past in workforce development. And I think that partnership is important for the Enid community, because when you can bring that economic development and that industry recruitment together with the people who are actually in charge of producing the workforce effort in that area, I think that's the best opportunity we have to make a sale to companies that might be looking to locate here. We can make a change in the way we've done business while at the table if it's necessary for that particular company. And we've seen that happen before, and I'm sure it'll happen again in the future. The way that the Education and Workforce Strategic Planning Committee is working is bringing the educational entities together, because there's still more that the educational entities can do to cooperate in production of that workforce. We need more information about local employers and exactly what they need, because if we get that information, then we can customize a training program that can go from K-12 to the technology center on to higher ed and closer produce the type of student that is needed to come out the other end. Some examples of that, and I'll use Autry in specific. We are always trying to work with industry to find out what their projections are on what type and how many employees they'll need in the future. One of the times that we've done that recently is with industrial maintenance, as an example. We actually brought 10 companies to the table who said we need people who can keep our equipment operating inside our factories or inside the industry that we're in. Those people participated in a focus group with us. We in turn invited those people back into a room to help develop specific curriculum. We built the curriculum. We opened a program. All of those companies now are sending employees and helping recruit local people into those programs for local jobs. Our job in workforce development is to produce people to go to work in our area first, and we're trying to focus in that particular area. So I think our cooperative effort with ERDA is certainly helping the community in that way. We also have found opportunities to partner with other educational entities. Our partnership with Enid Public Schools is wonderful. Almost half of the high school enrollment for Autry comes from Enid Public Schools, and Enid is now working with us in development of some ideas as how we can get high school graduates that did not come to Autry. They do not have the intent to go on to higher education, but we're going to try to find them jobs here in this community, because we think the true outcome of education is someone going to work. It's not the fact that they graduated from high school, from college, or from Autry. It's the fact that they were able to find a job. So we are trying to produce the workforce in this area, doing the best job that we know how at this point in time, but that's changing on a daily basis. We are putting in new programs. You've probably seen construction happening. There's a new diesel mechanics program going in the east end of the building, a pneumatics or a CNC machining program going in there, a fab lab. We have also, as I mentioned earlier, added the industrial maintenance program with a cooperative effort with Vance Air Force Base and a civilian contractor there for aircraft maintenance. We are now trying to produce aircraft mechanics for Vance, and there's some others very, very specific partnerships with industry from all across the Enid area that we're involved in at this point in time. We are working with our higher education partners to see that we can get as much college credit for those particular courses that we're developing as possible. So a lot of neat things going on in workforce development. I think Lisa will have some slides later on that will kind of evaluate how we're doing in workforce development in this area. But I want you to know that Autry Tech is available. and we are trying the best we can. We would certainly like to have additional input, and we'd like to have more people involved in Autry Technology Center. If we can help you, we're there. I think Lisa might open it up for questions later on, and I'll address those at that time.
Thank you, Brady. Yeah, Autry Technology Center is obviously one of our major partners. So statewide, the conversation, I'll just, this is a little aside, but you'll hear statewide them talk in education about a lack of collaboration or coordination between higher ed, career tech, and K-12. And while that might be the case other places, it is definitely not the case here in Enid. So everybody works very closely together and as seamlessly as possible. So that's very helpful. Okay, I'll go over a few highlights from our labor study and targeted industry study. Just this slide just mentions that you can find it on our website at growenid.com under the Documents tab. Here are some of the strengths and challenges that they highlighted with regards to our workforce here in Enid. So in the way of demographics, they were very complimentary of our clean commuting story. So what they mean by that is that because we are rural in the sense that we are not a suburb of another community, when we claim that we have so many people who drive into Enid every day for a job, we can prove that very certainly. Whereas you can imagine if you're in an Owasso, Oklahoma, and you're trying to prove your commuting study there, it's a little more complex, and sometimes the numbers are fudged. And anyway, so we can tell a very true story about our commuting patterns here in Enid. Most people, excuse me, most people commute 20 minutes or less. We have a very favorable age profile compared to other markets. We benchmarked ourselves against 9 other markets, and those other markets include communities that are our size, both in Oklahoma and outside of Oklahoma, as well as Wichita, Kansas, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Wichita Falls. Even though those communities are not like us in really any sense, they are truly our competition. So it's good to know how we compare. So the age profile, our average age is the same or lower than any of those other communities. And when you're looking to attract employers and they're looking at who their workforce is going to be, that lower average age is real favorable. And this is one I'm excited to see. It says a very positive trajectory on quality of place. And so not only did they do a desktop survey, pulling in all the best data that they could find about Enid, but they also came in and interviewed half a dozen of our employers and as many people as they could get in front of. And what they heard from those employers was that Enid has done a lot in the way of improving our quality of life here. There's a lot more activities. The beautification is improving. The events are improving. Just all those great things that make Enid a great place to live. Everybody's reporting that we're doing a great job on that. And so that's nice to see. Some of the challenges and demographics are that we are just literally smaller than some of our competitors. So just the sheer size of our labor force can be a challenge in selling ourselves against some businesses that may be needing some larger employment numbers. Our population growth, while it is positive, it is not as strong as, say, in Oklahoma City or Tulsa, which again is another one of our major competitors. Educational attainment for high skill projects. And so that would be some of your advanced degrees that may be required. We may not have quite as many people that have those advanced degrees for some of those highly skilled positions. And relatively low participation rate. You see here it says that may be a benefit. So what that means is that we have some people that are eligible to be working but are choosing not to work for one reason or another. And so we have some people that may be sitting on the sideline, and it's really our role to identify what those categories of people are, and maybe if there are barriers for them in working and what we can do to move them into the workforce. Occupationally, we have a very strong supply and concentration of production and maintenance occupations. As Brady just mentioned, the industrial maintenance program is a tremendous feather in our cap and is going to go far to increase that even more. We have a production presence without the threat of a big box logistics. So a big box logistics company would be something like an Amazon. So of course, we've got Amazon locating in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And, you know, Amazon comes in and they hire 1,000 people. And they can come in and take workers away from other logistics companies in the community. And so then you have a challenge in fighting over workforce. So they thought that that was really a positive for us, that we have such a high concentration of workers in that skill set without the threat of a big box logistics company like that to compete with. And overall strong value proposition for production projects. Again, a challenge is some of those high-skilled occupations and a less favorable growth story. So that's kind of that same storyline, that while we're growing, we're not showing the same growth as Oklahoma City or some of our other competitors. And this is the best column because there is no challenge listed on this screen. On the large screen, you can't see the colors really, but this is all positive. So workforce training in Enid, they saw as extremely strong, all the way pre-K through PhD. We're pretty fortunate that we can say that you can train from your pre-K all the way through PhD here in Enid, Oklahoma. We have a large number of completions coming out of our career tech, and that was supported by really strong employer testimony. Because if we're ever working with employers, they'll talk to Brady and I, but they won't believe us as well as they'll believe one of our existing employers, and they will go out and interview our existing employers. And so it's great to hear that those employers have good things to say. Autry, as a career tech partner, just can't really be much better. They are known for being fast, for being willing to customize programs, and they are always focused on improvement. We have a strong story in being able to say that we're just within an hour's drive of Oklahoma State University, which is a great research university and has some of those STEM degrees that we may be lacking here. And IT completions is something that we're going to delve into a little more, that obviously we're not going to have the volumes of graduates in IT that some of your larger communities have. But apparently for our size, we have a very strong number and consistent number of graduates in this area. And so that may be something that we can leverage. So recommendations basically showcase the value proposition and the great story we have to tell about the training and workforce program we have in Enid from beginning to end. Look into some of our low participation rate and see if there's opportunity there to bring those people into the workforce through training or removing other barriers. And then continue to work on quality of place and workforce attraction and retention. So all the things that we're already doing. COVID was occurring during part of the pulling together the information for this study. So they did make a note that COVID will likely be shifting the narrative. I don't know that at the time they necessarily were saying how, but they could see that it's definitely going to be a factor. Recommended target industries. I'm not going to go in detail in each of one of these because you can look this up in the study. It's quite a lengthy study. I don't remember how many pages, but 70 or more. Heavy manufacturing and assembly is something that they would recommend we continue targeting as a focused industry. Again, because of our maintenance and industrial skill sets we've got here in our community. One of the concerns there would be the competition with oil and gas jobs, and we know that that is something that we struggle with when oil and gas is strong. Food processing and manufacturing continues to be something, a strong suit for us. Obviously, we have quite a cluster of that already in Enid. As a result of COVID, We're seeing a lot of projects in food processing and manufacturing because your food processors are wanting to move out of California specifically. They're looking to diversify themselves into more facilities and more facilities and smaller footprints. And so Site Selection Group, who did this study for us as an example, have 12 active projects nationally, and 9 of those 12 were all in food processing. So you can see that that's a strong area right now. Aerospace, which we would refer to as aviation here in Enid. I think we continue to build on what we have, the assets we have in general aviation, specifically as it results to everything going on at Woodring Airport. It's all good. The extension of the runway, the instrument controlled tower that we have, the new terminal building, the industrial park that's there that's certified, the foreign trade zone that can be reactivated out there. So those are all assets for us to continue to build on. And automotive is a new focus for the state of Oklahoma. It was really a focus, honestly, before Tesla started looking at Tulsa. But that's amplified the attention on Oklahoma for automotive projects. And as the state moves in that direction, they believe that Enid is positioned well to also grow in that area. Finally, entrepreneurship and remote work. This is really where the implications of some of the COVID may come in. We have always been a strong entrepreneurship town, and would be a whole nother presentation to talk about what we do with entrepreneurship. But it says they're a very unique time for small markets to develop a strong remote work and entrepreneurship plan to retain and attract professional talent. Some of that professional talent may be moving out of larger markets or more dense markets, so that remains to be seen. Thought I'd let you know what our labor force and employment looks like right now. This is as of June. Our total labor force is measured at 20,496. Employment was up from a low in April, it looks like. So it's back up to 19,132. And so you can see that reflected in our unemployment numbers as we had a huge spike, and we were at just over 3% before COVID and are back down to 6.4% in June. And that is all I have, and would be happy to take any questions.
I'm curious about the efficacy of this study. I mean, the little throwaway line that we're not sure how this is going to be impacted by the largest global pandemic in history and an economic collapse we haven't seen since the 80s. I mean, it's a little bit like, other than that, how's the play, Mrs. Lincoln? I mean, I'm not sure what to take from this. What do you think, with your experience and expertise, how do you think our market is going to be different in 6 months from now than it was 6 months ago?
I don't think you'll see major changes in just 6 months. The reason that they were not able to quantify any expected changes, this was finished in June. And so while that may have only been a couple months ago, as things— It's
been a weird couple months.
It's been a weird couple months, and things just continue to change. I think it's incumbent upon Enid to recognize the strengths we have, and the reason that we all choose to live here. I mean, the reason that we choose to be in a place that's not congested, that has opportunity, that has a strong network of people, working to improve the community, that great place to live, great housing options, all those things, great place to raise a family. And those are things that are attractive to anybody at any time. But I think now the window may be open a little wider for people to hear that message.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
so it just remains to be seen. But
I mean, we're losing Jeffco. I know Tyson's been cutting shifts, and the folks working out there are a little worried. And our unemployment rate's still double what it was a few months ago. I just want to know what can we do? Where can we focus on more targeted growth, acknowledging the change in our whole world? I mean, it seems like nationally there is a broader trend. There's a little bit of the fleeing the urban areas. A lot more people are working from home. Some big law firms in Oklahoma City, half their staff is all practicing from home now. You know, my brother-in-law works for a big company in Oklahoma City, and they've told him basically stay home till end of the year at least. And what can we do to capitalize on that piece of it as things do get rolling again, hopefully, knock on wood? What can we do to make Enid more attractive to the folks who might not now need to go into the office 5 days a week?
Okay, well, if you want to talk about remote working and what makes a place attractive for a remote worker, the number one thing is high broadband speeds and access to broadband. That's the primary, thing they're going to require. Besides that, it's just a great place to live, because when you're working remotely, you can live anywhere you want to, as long as you have,
And I
strong
think
broadband.
some of the targeting that you talked about earlier, like the aviation career fields and stuff like that, some things you can't do at home, like work on airplanes. So I think that helps out a lot. I think targeting those kind of
the airline industry having kind of a rough year. I mean, it's not going to bounce back next year. I mean, the entire airline industry has taken the biggest hit in, I don't know, how many decades?
That's true, but I also know that in Advanced Air Force Base, a lot of the mechanics out there are 50 plus years old. Well, we want them to replace. We don't want to lose that. We've got to have the workforce to be able to handle that. And we see a lot more development, I think, happening out at Woodring. And I think there's a lot more room for growth in that area. So I think that will provide the people that we need for that. So I think those kind of targeted areas, I think we can work on.
So this study talks a lot about industrial recruitment. It mentions that professional services right now, there are not many projects, just for the reason you mentioned. Right now, there are not expansions happening in professional services because people don't need real estate for that right now. They're working out of their homes. And so what we're seeing, I think, as a trend in Oklahoma, just through some anecdotal stories, is that your people who may work for a large company that's just making it up, is located in New York City, but they're working remotely, they can move back to Oklahoma and do that work here where it's a lower cost of living, but they can still maintain that professional career. Same thing with college students. I'm hearing that from some college students who may attend a university in some other state that's gone to 100% online. And so those students have chosen to move back home where it's less expensive to live and still attend those universities. And so I think that's all good for us.
But so what can we do to capitalize on that? If that's an opportunity for us as a market to focus on, hey, come back to Enid, cost of living's low here. Mm-hmm. If you can work remotely and if you can be anywhere, be here. What can we do to capitalize on that?
Well, I don't know how to answer that other than to say marketing. I'm not going to suggest right now that we put necessarily dollars behind that, in the sense of what Tulsa did with their remote Tulsa program, where they incentivized people to come work there for $10,000 if they relocated to Tulsa. That was funded by the George Kaiser Family Foundation and was a very expensive proposition. So at this point, we're not advocating that we do something along that line unless there is a groundswell of support for that type of program. But
well, I mean, surely there's other choices in the world than advertisements and writing checks. I mean, there have to be other tools out there, other levers we can pull.
I'd be happy to talk about it with you offline if you've got some ideas and something.
No, I'm asking
you
for
have in
suggestions.
mind.
I'm asking you as our economic development director, if that's where we have this potential for growth, I'd like some ideas. I mean, I'd like you to tell us what we can do if the number one box we have to check is high-speed internet. We have some problems with that here. And so maybe we need to, I don't know what to do there, but.
Well, without high-speed internet, the rest of it's irrelevant. So high-speed internet is what you have to have remote workers, obviously. And then second to that is, like I mentioned, a community that people want to live in, that they think is attractive, has the amenities that they're looking for. You know just as well what those amenities are. They're places to shop and hang out and do things, and art, and all those things that that make a great quality of life. Outdoor activities.
Lisa, may I chime in here with you?
Sure.
I believe that I've been saying this for the last couple of months. We need to market our educational system. And that's something that I've seen mentioned a few times on a few of these slides tonight. And looking at the area in which we live in a part of the country where agriculture is very important. We feed the world. And another thing that I think is very important, we need to take a look at our medical institutions, our hospitals. Medicine is very important right now. The things that we're dealing with, even before COVID, medical is extremely important. And I believe that not only with technology, there's a lot of technology in medicine. People want to live longer. People want to live well. We have to eat. We're making a big decision on a water pipeline that's getting ready to go in this area. So I believe that we need to educate our children more, make them more aware, and also allow them to realize and understand that you don't always have to go to a bank to borrow money in order to start a business. That's the reason why we have places like ERDA that can help young individuals in the area to where they know where they need to go to be able to get those type of resources. A lot of times people just don't know. They really don't fully understand. And sometimes individuals that I talk to in the community, they have this fear of rejection. So, we got to become more transparent and let people know that, hey, it's okay to say, hey, I need some help. Sometimes pride get in the way. But I believe that looking at the demographics and looking at the area, the region that we live in, we need to capitalize on those natural resources that we have. And when we begin to capitalize on those natural resources and become creative with the things that we have, then we can take that substance and use it in different ways to where we can have economic growth. But I believe that education is very, very important. So we need to market our education system and not turn anyone away, because if we don't have the education system that we need generations to come, we're going to be lost. We're going to be without. We won't be able to fulfill the demands.
I still would, at some point next time you come back and talk to us, I don't want to put you on the spot, but when you come back, do some research for us. What can we do as a community to be, other than write checks or print flyers? What are the other levers that other communities are using? What else is out there that we can do to try to encourage people to come back and work here, to come back and again, other than magic George Kaiser money, which if you can get that would be great. But other than that and more advertising.
Workforce recruitment is how we're recruiting more people to move to Enid. That's what you're looking for specifically?
Yes, workforce development.
Mm-hmm.
But the workforce, that's the people who now maybe have a more flexible living situation. If that's
yes,
well, and specifically, if that is a national trend, and I think it is, then what can we do to pitch our community?
Okay. Yeah, there has not been a plan specifically surrounding recruiting remote workers to Enid at this time. We recognize that as a trend, but we haven't got our arms around a plan to specifically target that demographic. But like I mentioned, we've got a host of other things that we do and are doing, plan to do, surrounding just general workforce attraction. So we can go further into that if you'd like.
Do we want to make that the next the next training session? Because this was more about workforce development than workforce recruitment, and so I think we probably could have a discussion in terms on what it is we wanted in terms of recruitment as opposed to development.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. If what we keep hearing is, and what it seems like we hear a lot is people have to want to be here, that quality of life safety, community health, things like that are really important if you want to get people here. And if that's the same answer for this particular, remote workers or people who maybe aren't quite as tied to an urban area as they used to be, if the same answer for that is the same answer for all the other workforce development, if it's, improve quality of life, make your community safe, make your community attractive, then okay, that's kind of all we got. But if you can come up with any like concrete steps or any programs that we could steal from other cities,
Sure.
that seems worth looking at. And with that new target, if that is a new target, if that is a national trend, if that's borne out, maybe there's an opportunity for us.
All right. Anything else?
Okay.
Lisa, I wanted to let you know that I know that a conversation we'd had several months ago, you had really, I like the updates that you're providing now. That really, really helps me kind of understand what it is that's going on in the ERDA. And I hope that you can continue to come to our meetings and give us these updates. So
Thank you.
I appreciate
I plan
that.
to.
All right.
I'm going to echo that as well, Lisa. Thank you. I like the direction you're going. I appreciate the time and effort, all the study. I really believe we're going to see great things out of all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and adjourn this and reconvene here at 6:30.